and I gotta opt in myself here. Okay, so for me, when I first got started blogging, I had built my own WordPress website for my local business, and I just wanted to start blogging, and so I started just on that site, just with different posts and stuff like that. It's just something I wanted to do. And then I started, kind of following some of the blogging. It started to come up. I had some interest trying to follow some of the subjects and stuff like that. And so I had one person that I saw, and then they said, hey, I hit my first milestone. I got 10,000 hits a month or whatever. And so that got me wondering where I was. I had analytics set up on my site, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And so what I did is I logged in my analytics. Anyway, I was at that point. I was at 10,000. I knew that I was bringing traffic into my website. I knew that was doing good. But apparently, like, that was a milestone. I was just kind of naive. So I started wondering what, like, if I ran some ads, because the hosting is starting to get more expensive, and that's the more you get. So I said, well, maybe if I run some ads, I can kind of have the site pay for itself, and that sort of thing. So, but I didn't want to run ads on my home site, or my local business site. So anyway, I ended up splitting it off, putting it on its own domain. That's where it is now. And so I had, and I got a theme for it. So what I did is, when I got the theme, I went to Theme Forest or Envato or one of those types of places, and one of the criteria was that when I looked at it, it had a place, you're looking at kind of the blank screen there, and then it has a place for, an ad up here and an ad down, and an ad up at the banner, ad in the sidebar, and I think there's an ad down in the footer, and I thought, okay, well, that's what I want. I want, to run ads, and that looks good to me. And so I got my theme from, Theme Forest, I think is who it was. And what I found out is that you don't, the ads up in the, like, nobody watches the ads up in the banner and the sidebar and that sort of thing. Where you want the ads is in the content, And so this theme, it had no way of doing that. So what I ended up doing is buying a plug-in and forcing the ads into the content, so now it's this, it's a whole thing now. So anyway, and then what I did, what the thing is that later Google started to, all right, you need to leave. So Google started to, they had a setting, because I was on Google Ads, they had a setting where you could have Google just, place the ads for you. And so that, I ended up starting to do that, and they would put them in the content, and they would put them wherever, they would use their AI to figure out the best spots for them. So that, anyway, that's what worked. And the irony is, I was allowed to put 3 ads up, no more than 3 ads on a page. And it was, no matter if it was 300 words or 10,000 words, and then if you click the Google button, pretty soon they got 7 or 8 ads on some of these things, so, but if I did that, I got kicked out of the program, but anyway, so I started to, I forget what the problem was, but something was starting to happen, and I needed to move themes, and I became aware of the Genesis system. And the Genesis system is through a company called Studio Press, and the Genesis system is like it's a platform within the WordPress platform. So, WordPress is a sort of a structured setting for building websites. And then the Genesis platform is within that. And it's a really well coded, I don't know all the ifs, all the, technical stuff, but it was always well regarded as far as its performance. And I always felt good about how the thing ran. It always was fast. It was always like good performance. And then other people would build, it was kind of an ecosystem. So other people would build sites, Studio Press would build their own. And then you could also have third-party designers build themes for it too. And then also there'd be plugins designed for it. And it's just really a great system. So now I still am on the Genesis platform, and I have 3 websites on it that use it. But things are changing, and with WordPress and that sort of thing. So going back to one of the things with WordPress is, they started to get these other competitive platforms, like Wix is one of them. I think Divi's one of them too. I think Tess is going to talk about Divi, so I don't really know much about that. But the Wix platform, and you could just drag and drop. You could just drag and drop the things around. It's a really easy way to build a website. And so WordPress has to kind of compete with that. And so anyway, that's how the whole the Gutenberg blocks got started, is they're starting to switch over to those blocks. Now they have website builders such as the Beaver Builder is a real popular one. Elementor is very, very popular, especially right now. That are the same type of things. It's a website builder within WordPress, and those, like I said, Elementor has been very, very popular. And so WordPress is moving more towards that. So we had this WordPress 5.9 update, and that has some more blocks on there. So instead of just building the page with paragraphs and images and headings and that sort of thing, you can start to build your site with this. And so some of the new blocks, I noticed they have an author box in there and that sort of thing for building pages, or for building, more than just pages. So anyway, so that's kind of like where WordPress is going. And then 6.0, the WordPress 6.0 is supposed to be the big update that you can fully build your site. That's what they've been going towards. I don't know when it's coming out, but it's coming soon. And it might be this year, might be next year, something like that. So anyway, because of this, StudioPress, where I was before with the Genesis system, they have made some changes, and so they are taking their themes, and they've actually have if you go to their site, they have 50 themes, or something like that. I don't know, but they are archiving almost all of them, and they're only gonna continue to work with 10 of them, or 10 or so. Might be 10, might be 12, something like that. And they've listed them out. Where I'm at right now, the website that I have is one of the ones that's archived. So they're going to continue to do security updates, and that's it. So I feel like it's time for me to kind of move on again. StudioPress, they seem, it's a little bit heavy. The themes are anymore. They feel a little bit dated to me. And also they are not even building themes anymore. They have this their own little block system. They got Genesis blocks that they are doing, and you can subscribe. I think it's called Genesis Pro, I think is what it is. And they have it's like $30 a month though, is what they're doing. Where it used to be the themes were $120 and one-time fee, and that's it. So anyway, it's for me, it just feels like it's kind of time to move on. And one more thing I want to add: if you go with WP Engine or Flywheel for your host, you still have access to those dozen themes or so, and they're free on there. So you can use one of those. And like I said, they're well coded. The Genesis system is a good one, and they're still fast. And for the most part, you can make the Google speeds. One of the things I wanted to mention with Elementor and Beaver Builder and the Site Builder plugins, come on, the Site Builder plugins is that one of the reason people are kind of leaving those is that they are slowing down the sites, and so that big plugin is it's a lot on your site, So anyway, so that's the advantage of going with Gutenberg, is that you're building your site right in the WordPress platform, and it should be fast and all that good stuff, but it's not there yet. So anyway, so I've been kind of looking into this. I'm not ready to move my site yet, but the time is coming. Like I said, the Studio Press system is $30 a month. It's a bit much for me. I just don't think I'm going to be doing that. There's one called Generate Press that I'm interested in. That's one of the ones that is a lot of people are going to. It's a little bit lighter, it's fast, and that sort of thing. And they have a free version, and there's upgraded ones from there. Cadence with
can you say the name again? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, Generate Press. Let me throw it in the chat here. So there's Generate Press. I don't know if it's one word or two words. And Cadence is another one I'm hearing about. And then also the Astra theme, but I think Astra, a lot of people use Elementor with that. Not that there's anything wrong with Elementor, but if you have like a small little local business site or something like that, and you build it with Elementor, that's probably fine. The Element, I did see a demo with Elementor, and it's a nice web builder. I mean, I get why people are using it, so it makes your themes look fast. So,
Astra works great with just blocks and no page builder. That's what I'm using.
Say that again.
I'm using Astra with no page builders, and it worked great with blocks.
Okay. So you built your whole site with just the blocks then in Astra?
Everything on my sites are only blocks. Okay,
good. Well, that's good to know, because I'm still looking into it and I'm trying to figure that out. So that's good to know. So,
and I threw the link to my genealogy front end. If anybody, you can see that I'm doing blocks.
Okay. Yeah, you can throw it in the chat if you want, or I don't know if you have already.
I've already done it.
Okay, yeah, I see it up there. So anyway, and then Oxygen was another one. I think it was Viv that mentioned that one. That's another one that's light and popular, nowadays. So, but we're kind of just in this area where, we got a couple of years here. I don't know if themes are going to go away, but I know that they're with us for the next, few years at least. I mean, it's going to take a couple of years probably for Gutenberg 6.0 to come out. And then if it's anything like the original Gutenberg, it took a few updates for people to start using it. So, and there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve and that sort of thing. But in general, I would rather have a plain theme that is fast and performs fast and people can find, than having a really, elegant looking theme that maybe is a little bit clunky or slowing things down. So that's about all I have to say about themes. I'm not a designer or a developer or anything. So I don't know is there any questions or any feedback just on that part of it?
Okay. I would like to say something, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The full site editing is going on right now. We're not waiting for 6.0. It's already done that. In fact, Gerald, maybe he's done some of his site is full site. So you can there's blocks, you can create blocks in your navigation. You can do it in your widgets and your footers and stuff. So there's always going to be some issues, of course.
Right.
So it's pretty new.
So what is the 6.0 update then? What's
I can't remember exactly what is happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, right now it still says beta. Maybe it's going to take away the beta, when you go to.
Yeah, and then go to 6. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. So anyway.
But that's the beauty is with blocks, though. You're right, is about the speed because it's built into the core. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about I don't know who wants to go next. Is Mark or Tessa, or I guess that's it. So.
Yes. Do you want to go?
Your mic's on mute, Tess.
Mine's a little bit open-ended, so why don't you go and then I'll kind of wrap it up and see how long it takes.
Yeah, mine's totally open-ended. I just want to ask some questions, really. I'm probably
okay.
Well, I was going to say I was the least experienced designer here. I don't know if that's true, but the topic generally that I want to talk about is sort of exploring simple design. So for me, I mean, that's one of my main things. I would never use Elementor. I've been doing tech so long, and by the time I got to my 4th or 5th just client database program because they kept going out of business. I don't know if you guys had that experience, but I was just like, oh my God, this is horrible, just having to change stuff like that. So I learned a long time ago, just keep it simple. And like with that site that I mentioned, that it's been going 15 years, I can't do complicated stuff. And I mean, I've switched themes several times, and I just don't want to be going back through 500 posts and trying to find broken problems. And so the question then is, for me, and for my needs, is how do I maximize creativity with just existing basic blocks? What kind of blocks are more likely to be resilient over time? That is, they're not going to break or have problems. What kind of blocks are more likely to have problems? What blocks are you guys using in creative ways that maybe others haven't really thought about? And same thing with the widgets, the widget blocks, I guess. Are you using those? And do you see those as potentially leading to problems down the road, or have you seen problems with those? And then specific blocks, like I just noticed this morning when I was fooling around with it, Wolfram Cloud, which looked like kind of a cool thing, but it seemed like, gee, I don't know, is that going to be a resilient kind of a block? For those of us using Genesis, I just coincidentally happen to use the same Genesis theme that Jim does. But I don't know about you, Jim. I really shied away from the Genesis blocks just because of my fear of really wanting to avoid having to go back and make changes later. And I seem to be meeting most of my needs with just basic WordPress blocks, but maybe my site's too simple. And so that's another thing I'd like to kind of revisit just for myself, creativity. Are you using, a lot of you using groups, cover block, rows and tables in creative ways? And are you doing anything creative with tags or categories? So those are sort of my questions.
I'll chime in on the Genesis block. So, I was, when they first, Gutenberg first came out, yeah, I was using Genesis blocks. I liked them, there's buttons and stuff like that, where the main one for WordPress wasn't, I did, it was okay, but the Genesis one I thought was better. And so I would, I would put those in my site and that sort of thing. And there's a few, and now I don't use them because I know I'm going to probably change over, and so I am a little bit worried about that, about breaking my site when I change, because I'm using some of their Genesis blocks right now, and I'm not sure I know where they're all at either. So that's the problem.
Well, what other thoughts do you guys have? How are you doing? Or are you just like, now it's too basic? Your needs, or maybe you've got to use something like Elementor or Divi.
Well, I am, after listening to a lot of different things here, starting to think that I need to dive in and learn more about the WordPress blocks that are built in. I tried it out a few years back and I was turned off because I was trying to make a 3-column format and nothing that I did worked. I'm definitely computer literate, but I'm used to writing code at the back end. And I'm not terribly good with the drag and drop stuff. I don't always understand how that works. Whereas if I were writing the HTML or something, it would be a different story. But Divi has its limitations, similar to Genesis, in that you can put a lot of different modules in there. But if you then try to change your theme to something else, there's a lot of proprietary code in there that is not going to transfer over. And so once you build something in the Divi theme, it kind of breaks the purpose of WordPress, which was to be able to swap themes if you felt like it and keep your content there. And I just think it's about time, and especially after listening to Jim talk, maybe time to dive in and see what Blocks has to offer that that may not work with Divi. I mean, one of the problems I think with the builder things is that developers sometimes tend to over-engineer things. And I speak from experience. It's like you get something and it's just right and it's just what people like and it's easy to use. But somebody says, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did X, Y, and Z? And so they go ahead and they do X, Y, and Z. And then the people that have to use it are thinking, what? I don't need that. And it's just way too complicated. Once they start adding stuff like that and adding stuff, it gets harder and harder to use. And I have found that out with Divi as well. I liked it, the version that I started to use 4 or 5 years ago, a lot better than the current drag and drop format that they have now. I thought it was easier to visualize what was going on. Was very much like a wireframe, which I was going to show when it's my turn. I'll show the part that I liked and then the new part. But yeah, I think it's time for a change. That's all what I wanted to contribute to your discussion. I don't know if that helps or not.
Well, yeah, it's all helpful, and I really appreciate. We didn't really talk about how we were going to structure this, but I can see it's fallen in right in place, and I didn't know, Jim, even about 6.0 or Genesis, drawing down on those themes. So that was a super good way to start this up. Okay, well,
Can I
yeah.
say something real quick, Mark?
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if you know anything about block patterns with the whole Gutenberg thing.
Is that sort of up on the top? Then there's blocks, patterns, and reusable.
Right. Yes. And
Okay.
so if you
Oh,
look at
wait, could you explain that a little bit more for those of us who aren't understanding what you meant by that?
I could share my screen if you want.
Sure.
Real quick. Is that cool, Jim? James, you're on.
You're muted, Jim.
Oh, you guys wanted to hear what I was saying? Yeah, I think it's ready for, I mean, I set it to share, I think. So you
Okay.
should be able to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
When we first started, I didn't know if other guys were going to share or not. There we go.
Okay, you can see this.
Mhm. Yep.
So this page right here, so this is with using 5.9.2, and this is all built with blocks. This is a block, full site editing block, and it's nothing fancy. This right here is a block pattern. This whole thing right here, and I'll show you. If you come over here, this is editing a page. And if you go over here, here's where the blocks are. Usually you're probably familiar with this. Okay, this is all the different blocks. You wanted to get your columns, they're somewhere in here. But if you go over here to patterns, there's some basic ones that just are always there, like buttons. They got some basic stuff that you could just, boom, and there it is. So then you just change this to be whatever you want it to be. So that's kind of like the page builder aspect that they're doing. You can also create your own patterns, which is what I do, because I created these because in my posts, I always have something like this. I have my lyrics, I've got this song metadata, I have a song metadata with an image caption. So I created these, and they're not that complicated to do, but you do have to do some coding. So, but a lot of times what you do is basically it's copy and pasting. You just go to like, well, I tell you what I could do. I don't want to take up too much time here, but.
Oh, you have to take all you want. This is interesting.
Okay. So if I go to the theme, because that's my theme that I built. So if you go to the new theme, like this is the new theme, I maybe should update it, but I will. 2022, this is what you get if you update to 5.9. And again, you know, I think somebody, maybe Tessa says that sometimes if you create a block, it could break in the next update. It might not work. And so all my block patterns, they may not work again, you know, but that's kind of been the problem. So I'm going to activate this 2022, and then we'll go back to that page. Post, I guess. Oh, you're not supposed to see that. So if you go into here now and look at the patterns, let's see, should be a lot more of these. Oops. So you can see they've got, you know, they give you many choices, and these are all blocks.
Yeah, they have a lot more of those since 5.9.
Yeah, it's really pretty amazing.
I did not realize that until you just showed it, but there's a lot more in there than there used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this-
those are not part of Genesis. Those are part of WordPress.
It's a WordPress.
Right.
And and like I said, the beauty of it, of using, you know, the Gutenberg and the blocks on that is it loads so fast. It's, you know, that's the thing. Also, Tessa said that, you know, when software developers, they build plugins or anything really for that, but they just keep adding stuff. That's why I always build when I need a plugin for a contact page, I'll build my own contact page, because I only wanted to do one or two things, you know, I don't want to do a bunch of things.
So I have a question here to make sure I'm following. So from this, it almost looks like I'd be better off switching to 2022 and then building what I want, because the chances of it working, because it's not proprietary, it's proprietary to WordPress, is going to be a better chance. Right now I'm on X, and X has, I want to get off of X theme because almost everything's proprietary in that theme. And so would that be a good way to go, to use the blocks and stuff and do 2022?
Well, yes, but again, there's always problems when you update to the next version, right? I'm sure you've all come.
Yes.
I've been really lucky. I've only been in, you know, when I started in WordPress, it was right when the blocks started to come out with Gutenberg.
So you're newer. Yeah.
I'm pretty new. And so, I mean, I've been doing web development for 15 years, but I was in the same boat as everybody else. Everybody that had been working on WordPress for 12 years, it's all, you know, they're learning just like I was, because it was all new with Gutenberg. So
see, part of my problem is I have a lot of code, because I enjoyed coding and I started in 2008. So I've got a lot of old stuff that is coded, and that's part of what I'm trying to figure out is what I do now. So this is very helpful, what you're saying and what you're saying, Mark.
And again, yeah, so if you're up to date, I mean, the beauty is if you can test this and play around with it, if you can find a place to do that, and
Yeah,
you know, just to see if you want to go that route.
Cool.
Yeah, because there might be something that you know, it seems like a good idea, but you know, once you try and get in there and work stuff, you know, like I think it was Tessa was saying, like, you know, she wanted 3 columns, and that was a hard thing to do, you know. And I do think they have a way of doing it now, but they didn't used to, you know.
Yeah.
And so there is like weird little things, like I was trying to have a block do, you know, I kind of wanted like 2 functions in one block, and they have this container block that might be a Genesis block. But anyway, it was really confusing, and I couldn't ever really get it to work right. You know, because I wanted like a menu, and then I wanted it to drop down, and so there was 2 functions, but I couldn't make it work at the time. Now they have an accordion block for there. So anyway, it's like Philip's saying is, you know, play around with it and see if it works. And then, but I think if it does work, it would probably be a good solution.
Yeah, I go to the WordPress developers meetup, and James, I remember when you were there, we got a little, it got a little more complicated for me too. That those people, they're really skilled, and they even have problems with this. So
What's funny is they get into the word, they got into the blocks, like, and so the blocks I use, I thought, okay, I'll be able to pay attention to this. And they go right for the whatever that, like the query block, the code
Yeah.
block was one of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
That query block, like I don't know that I've ever seen that before. I still don't
Me-
understand how they use it.
yeah.
But anyway, it was interesting.
So there you go. I can stop sharing and
So Mark, one thing I want to add here is the Genesis, they still do have their themes, they have those 10 or 12 themes, whatever it is. They are, those are updated. So I didn't mean to throw a monkey wrench in your thing here. But from what I understand, you can't buy those themes. You have to be a WP Engine or a Flywheel user, and then you can still use them,
I'm not sure I understand. So the way to spend probably what you did, I paid, I don't know, $500 or something, and I have lifetime access to all the themes. But are you saying all those themes are only going to get security updates? And if you want to do any other Genesis themes, you have to get onto a new program?
Well, here, I'll show you I'm going to throw this in the chat here. Here's a link here. This is their big update from last year, from Studio Press, and they have some different things. So they did say that they are not going to sell those themes anymore. So they're archiving like a whole bunch of them, like if you go to their site, let's see here where you go, you click on themes, and they still have like their third-party themes, I think. Yeah, they do in here. And so a lot of these are just going away. And in that update that I put in the chat, they list I don't know, whatever it is, the 10 or 12 themes that they're going to continue to update and that sort of thing. But from what I understand, you can't buy those themes unless unless you buy the hosting. So like WP Engine, WP Engine or Flywheel, you have their hosting, and then you can download the Genesis child themes. The framework. What's weird in that update is the framework. The main theme is now free, I guess, and anybody can download it, and you only get the open source theme. So I don't know. I'm not really sure how all that works. Go ahead, Tessa.
Well, Divi did something similar a few years ago where they used to have, in addition to their Divi builder, they had, I don't know, maybe 15 themes or so. And I went back to get an update on one of them for a client a couple of years ago, and they were all archived except for 2 of them. So they have eliminated those themes just like Genesis did. What they have done in place of it, though, is when you buy the Divi theme, I had bought, like, I think it was $250, and you get a lifetime access. So they send out what they call layout packs, where their developers will create all of the wireframe designs and everything for a particular type of thing, and then you can just use that instead of going to a different theme. Now, I haven't used any of those, so I don't know how fast they are or anything, but I think the builders can kind of see the handwriting on the wall, and maybe they're backing away because WordPress is coming out with their own builder, so to speak.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that seemed pretty cheap. I saw that $250 for Divi. I'm like, ooh, that's like a giveaway.
So what do you want to? What do you want to do, Mark?
No, I just looking for feedback and thoughts. Maybe come back to blocks. Is anybody using? Maybe share your favorite blocks, or maybe does anyone have one example of how they use the blocks somewhat creatively? Is anybody putting blocks in sidebars? Is that something that we can do now? I thought I read that somewhere. Yeah, and how's that working? Viv's saying, oh, it's working great.
I know we can, and I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going with the whole thing. Probably by next time, I will be able to show you guys some stuff, because this is being very helpful to me. that I think I'm probably going to try 2020. I've been stopped because I knew I needed to change and get off of X. And so I've just sort of been trying to figure out my next step. I did just put in the chat that the one I had mentioned was not Oxygen, it was Oshine. And Oshine is very similar to Divi. But I think that everything that you guys are saying, it may just, I agree that WordPress is starting their own builder. What we might want to do is have a time, maybe even next time or the time after, where we talk about widgets and the blocks and stuff that we're using, and then all come prepared to show things.
Yeah, we're actually, now that you mention that, we next week, I don't know if I want to give away the speaker or not, since they're here, but
Next month, yeah.
but we're actually going to be, or not next week, next month. We got somebody lined up to do a presentation on blocks. I mean, that's what we're going to talk about. It's a block editor, so that might be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Good. I'm looking forward to that. I need it.
That's what I was going to suggest, is get somebody like, there's Mark Root Wiley from
Your
the
calendar.
Developers
Case
Blog.
study. Using Elementor to build a mega menu. Takes in 1 hour.
He's really good.
So
From your
Okay.
calendar.
Alexis,
Case
stop.
study. Using Elementor to
okay, what to I don't know, we're 11 o'clock. Should we move on? Do you want to go with Tessa now, or is that? What do you think, Tessa? You ready to?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. I'm not a designer myself, and I approach this more from a user perspective. Like when I go to a website or a blog, what is it I want to see? What is the information that I want, and how useful is it to me? And I think I lined up some screen sharing things. According to you, I can share, so whoa. Okay. Got a bunch of stuff there. I set up a subdomain yesterday that I was going to start doing something from scratch, and I will come back to that. What I originally wanted to show was, and I'll start with well, first of all, if anybody, while I'm talking, has a particular website or blog that they think is great, or one they think is terrible, if you put that in the chat, then maybe we can look at it later. I tried to dig up some of my own, but this I thought was interesting. Has anyone heard of the Wayback Machine?
Yeah.
It's where you can go and you can look at old websites from 20 years ago or more. And I know that website design has changed dramatically from like the 2000 to what we see now. It used to be a lot more complicated. And so I picked out just a couple of examples from this Wayback Machine. Like here is Amazon's site, and this one is October 2003. This is what their site looked like. Very different than today's, which looks like this. Because back in 2003, not everybody had the bandwidth for all of these images. And so now we have a lot more options. Another one that I looked at is All Recipes, because I'm a food person. And this is what their site looked like on February 29th, 2000. And what it looks like today, lots more pictures and a lot larger. So the design has changed dramatically. And I used to work in those days for msnbc.com, the website. And msnbc.com at that time was not the same as the MSNBC cable that you think of today. The MS stood for Microsoft, and NBC stood for national broadcasting company. And MSNBC.com was a joint venture just to produce a news site. And it wasn't the cable channel, but this was what our site looked like back in 2001. And you can see how the style was so much different. It seemed like in those days, websites were trying to copy the look of television. And so you have this thing here that looks like a television screen or a television, whatever. And at the time, here's one, Russia's Putin warns US on Iraq. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. Ads were stuck in the middle. Here's one for Expedia. There's another ad at the top. And on all of these massive, complicated links and everything were what people looked at. Today.
Excuse me, Tessa.
Sure.
You know the banner up there, the way back banner, you can remove that. There's a little X at the upper right, and so it'll see a little better.
Okay, I guess I could. I just thought it was interesting in case we wanted to check it from a different perspective. I was looking for where I am. Okay. And this is an example. This is what the NBC News site looks like today, which is quite totally different with video and all other sorts of things. So that's how we progressed in design. Sometimes I think we've gone too far on the simplification scale so that we have sites like, I'm going to say this one because I'm looking for someone to do some yard work, some gardening for us. And this is an example, and it's a pretty site, but there's not a lot of information here that's useful to me. Like if I go to services, I see these pictures, but none of them go anywhere. And there aren't any prices here. There's no location when on the About Us page. And there's no button that says call us for a quote or anything like that. And so I think it's useful to think about whether you have a website or a blog, what is it that people are coming to your site for? And do you provide that information in an easy format? I mean, it's very pretty to look at, but not terribly useful. There's another one here. This one is not very pretty, but it's got all the basic information. It has a phone number. It tells me that they're licensed, and it gives me the email address and where they're located. So even though it is not as design wonderful, it gives me what I need to know. So here's another one that pretty much does everything. It has all of their services, and then it has a button, request free estimate. However, their request free estimate doesn't do anything. So it just refreshes the same page. So somebody overlooked that. And I don't know, do people here at this meeting, do you have just strictly a blog, or are you selling any services or anything? If you are, you might want to pay attention to this. And I'm going to skip over to I went looking for blogs. And the one thing that I found when you try to search for blogs, what you get is you get companies providing you with, say, 50 top blogs, 100 blogs, and a lot of them are not really personal blogs. For instance, there's one site I was looking up food blogs, and I got this one called Serious Eats, and I got Pinch of Yum, and there must have been like 40 or 50 of these, but they're not put out by individuals. They're put out by this company called Cafe Media. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, if you have your own personal blog, how do you surface yourself with SEO to compete with these kinds of things that seem to take up all of the top bandwidth? There was one I found, coffeebytheroast.com, which is a blog, and they do sell coffee, but one of their links is kind of hard to find, but it's Coffee by the Blog. And it's fairly simple. It just has simple blogging about various topics, which is interesting, but it was hard to find something like that. Now here's one which is for a book. And this person, she's written a number of books. She's quite an expert in the food industry. And I like her site because the very first page, which is what this is, that's where the blog entries are. And you can find whatever you need from all of her entries on that page. She's got other information, but the main thing is right there where you can find it. Here's one for writers that does something that they really should notice, and that is, here's a link, but when I roll over it, they haven't set the font so that you can actually see it. It just fades away when you roll over it. And that's a minor detail, but it can make it hard for users to find the information they want. And that leads us into another topic that I think we should invite somebody to talk about, and that is web accessibility. So when you have a site like this, for instance, people that have vision problems, they're going to have a terrible time with this. And there are sites like this one. This is the w3.org list of all kinds of products that you can use to run your site through. You put the URL in and it'll tell you whether you've got colors that people that are colorblind can read, whether you've got your tabs correct so that somebody who's sight impaired can tab through all of your links. It doesn't take a lot to make something accessible, but you do need to pay attention a lot of times to that. Here's a site where you can just put in your URL and it will give you what your goals are and tell you what issues that you need to fix. And here's a government section on all kinds of tests. So something that we should probably all be thinking about, because there's a wide diversity of people that have different kinds of abilities that might like to read your blog. And it's good to know those things. So that's kind of my overview from just my personal perspective about what I look for in a website. And I don't see the chat here at the moment. So I don't know if anybody put one in that they want to look at. Oh, you put this one in, right? Site checking for contrast.
Yeah, I think that's just an alternate website that you can use for checking
Right. There's a number of them out there. So
hey, as far as what about colors? Do you have any input on colors? I know this isn't, you weren't planning on talking about this, but like color schemes for sites, other than, not just about accessibility, but you know, is there like kind of a fundamental, like you kind of want a light color and a dark and a highlight, or you have any thoughts on that, or is that?
Well, there's lots of design sites out there that will give you suggested colors. They might give you a palette of, say, 5 or 6 colors to use for your website that are that go well together. I personally look for contrast for certain things because my vision's not that great either. I wear glasses and I can see, but if the font is too tiny, it doesn't work for me. And contrast is really important. So I think there's a link here, contrast and color accessibility.
You know, a couple of years ago at the help desk, I remember it was down at PAC, where PACMed used to be. We had somebody from Washington State give a talk on accessibility, and she was phenomenal. And she'd probably be willing to do it again for us.
That would be great.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be great.
Here's
And on
one.
the W3 site, you notice how there's blues and reds, and those blues and reds are colors that people can see regardless of their color blindness. So it was very fascinating. She had really good stuff.
Well, here's the contrast checker where you can put in the foreground color and the background color. And I guess it tells you, gives you some mathematical ratio as to how good that is. So it's good to consider that if once you get your basic design together.
Yeah, so one thing I don't know if anybody's using any of the accessibility extensions you can put on your browsers. Because there's a couple of those that, I mean, I've been following accessibility for a while and just went to this conference, 3-day conference last week on it. Still learning, but the extensions are really valuable. I mean, as soon as you build a page, you should go and run it through the extension and see, you know, what's the problem.
Okay, so you're
I can
saying,
share some of that if anybody wants to see that.
so that mean you don't have to take your URL and put it in some
Right.
other link. You just have it in the browser. Well, that sounds like it would be really useful.
Like just a Chrome extension or something like that.
Yep, there's a couple. I use one that's called Wave, WAVE, and there's one that's called Axe. And I can put those in the chat, but and I can share real quick.
Sure, go ahead and do it. Yeah.
Okay.
And if anybody wants me to check their site, just tell me and I'll put it up. Anybody brave enough?
Oh, sure, yeah. You can do, I have a site that's, I had a client who's a developer and I was showing her the site and she didn't know it was my site and her first thought was, oh my God. But it's like, this is my site for local legal news, and it's really designed as a portal where you've got links for everything. It's clallamcountybar.com. Clallam. It's an Indian name.
Clallam.
I think it's a client, yeah.
Let me see if I can.
CLALLAM.
Clown County
Bar.com.
Bar. I'm not getting it.
Clallam.
Can
Yeah.
you put it in the chat?
Can you put it in the chat? Yeah, that'd be better.
Yeah.
Oh, Philip, mine is dancingupsidedown.com.
Okay.
And that one, it's sort of what Tess was talking about because it is a blog site. So you can see what I've been doing with that.
Dancing upside down.
Upsidedown.com.
That
Okay.
sounds hurtful, or like it would hurt.
Okay, so I'm
When you
gonna
have
share
brain injury, that's how you feel.
Okay, so you can see dancing upside down. You see my site or
Yes,
my?
we're
Yeah,
seeing-
we can see it. Yep.
Okay, so let's see here. So I've got this one extension. It's up here. Where is it? It's not that one. Oh, the W. So Wave. If I just click on that, it'll tell me right away some of the problems, which it's not bad. So you got 3 errors. There's details here. So you're missing a form label.
Mhm.
So if you do a form, you need to have a label on it that's just for readers, like for people that have browsers that read. And there's a couple empty links. That's not a big deal. And you don't have really any contrast colors, 0 right there. So that's
Yeah.
good. And then, so there's that. So that's not bad. I've seen some you wouldn't believe how wow, they're just
Well, you know,
crazy.
this is for people with brain injuries. So I've been
Yeah.
trying to be really attentive to it. So that's good.
Absolutely. Well,
So
so
do you
here's
have-
another thing is that with people with brain injuries, you don't want things that are blinking or moving around, or even when you go through this. Is this working? Is this a carousel? So
It is, but it's not automatic. So you do have to push it usually. Maybe
yeah,
it's not working.
it's not clicking now, but even then, when you click on it, it's got to go slow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like this. And so anyway, then there's another one that I use.
Well, before you go, does this
Oh, sure.
cost, is this a free plugin or?
No, this is,
or-
yeah, this is free. So if you go to Google, let's see. I don't know, let's see how to do this. Google extensions, Chrome web store. There's another way you can do it through, I think here, let's see, tools, extensions. And then you can put in here. So these are not, you can just put accessibility. And there's 2 of them. And this is the one that I really like probably the most, is Axe Tools. So I don't know if I went too fast, but if you go in your browser, they're on every browser. So it depends on which browser you're using. I'm using Chrome. So it's more tools and then 2 extensions.
You could look at, in the link, we've got Clallam County Bar, if you do want to look at that.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Gonna break wave, I'm sure of it.
We'll see. No, that's not bad. Well, 24 contrast errors. So that blue right there, which I think is a standard link style color,
Right.
it just doesn't, I don't know why they didn't do it better than that, but and then, you can, if you right click on it, well, even then you can say, well, let's see, I don't use this one a whole lot, but so the alternative text, that's on, if you take like an image, if you look,
I'm trying to go through and change that.
like, do you want to have an alternative text? Because that's another thing that is really important for screen readers.
Also good for SEO.
And SEO, yeah. And here's mine.
Mhm.
I'm gonna check mine, and I should pass because this is something I got. So this is Axe Tools. So this is a different still. So congratulations, I am Axe free. That's what that's
Oh.
issue free. So I took it very seriously about getting it to that point. So and
Very basic WordPress theme or WordPress site with no theme, is that right?
yeah, it's a theme, but it's a theme that I built.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing nothing fancy. Let's see. So let's go back to, where was did I lose the column? Okay, so let's go back here. I don't want to take up all your time here. If we go F12, and then go to Axe and scanning the page. And this one, this one really finds more issues, and it's some of the stuff, so you got 24 on that one. And if you look here, most of them are the color contrast. So that's pretty simple stuff to figure out. If you use that site that I put into the chat, you can go in and figure out what those are. It links with most discernible text. That's just, and they like it to, instead of saying, read me, they want, read more about so-and-so, stuff like that. Heading levels, like this is an H1, and they want it to go H1, H2, H3. So it's little things like that. So anyway.
I'll explain that.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, I'm not a complete expert, but I'm trying to get there. Every time like I said, every time I build a post or a page, I run it through those extensions and just test them. As well as you guys probably all use Yoast for SEO. It's just good at practice to check for accessibility as well.
Well, good. This is good. Okay. What about we had a question in the chat here, and we got some of you developer guys on here. So okay, hold on. I just saw the message from. So I'll announce that at the end for our next session. But we had in the chat here. How do you set up a subdomain? You guys know how to do that?
Well, doesn't that kind of depend on your host? I have DreamHost, and I just set up one yesterday. Actually deleted one and set it up. And it's something that you don't do in WordPress. You do it with your web host.
Yeah, that is true. And you can use multi-sites. So the domain, so yeah, there's subdomains and there's paths. So it can be test dot and your website, your domain name, or it can be your domain name in a folder. There's two different ways to do it. And if you wanted to have, it's too complicated to get into here.
Yeah, and it does probably vary based on what host you have. DreamHost makes it pretty simple. As long as you have a package that supports that, you can just go in and put in. The one I did yesterday was test.wezonwebworks.com. Took about 10 minutes for it to propagate, and then it was done.
Okay, so it sounds like something you'd have to do, like talk to your host about.
Yeah, usually they have instructions how to do it. If you go to support or knowledge base and you say, how do you set up a subdomain, they should give you steps to do it. And if they don't, then maybe you need a different host.
Why does someone want to like what use does it serve?
To
Well,
practice on different using different themes.
Yeah, practice is one. Another one is if you want to revise your website, you can make a subdomain and use that to develop the whole thing. And then when you're ready, you can just transfer it up to what your regular site was and replace it.
So you actually put a WordPress, you install WordPress on your subdomain, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so you're essentially starting with a site from scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you don't have to pay for a second. You don't have to pay for a second hosting when you do a subdomain.
No, you don't. And this way it's got its own database, it's got everything, and you can start from scratch.
So I know, like, I'm not in the know on this, but I know that with my hosting company it's called Flywheel, they have a way that you can build the site on it, and then transfer it over later if you want to. But you can build the site. I forget what they call it, but there's a term for it. But you can build it.
Staging?
It's local.
Staging site?
Yes, a staging site. Yeah.
It's local by Flywheel is what it's called. It's a free web development.
Yes.
Mhm.
But I don't even know, like, I don't have the local, but I maybe they've, maybe that's like an added service now or something like that, but I don't have the local by Flywheel, but I was able to stage a site. This was a couple of years ago though, so maybe it's changed. I don't know.
Yeah, local is great because And that's what I use all the time. I could put up a site right away, right now. I don't have Flywheel, but if I did, it's easy as like just a click and it goes to a staging site or it goes to your production site. It makes it really simple.
Yeah. And I don't think Flywheel's the only one that does it, but I'm just going to put the thing in the chat here. Flywheel, to get Flywheel is what it is. If that's of interest to anybody, you know, they've been a good
It is-
host. So
I use SiteGround, and they also give whatever you call them, the practice ones. where you can
staging
go-
site.
Yes, staging site.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah. SiteGround's a little bit cheaper, I think. So. Okay. Let me get out of this. Okay. What about any other questions or anything like that? We got, you know, a few more minutes here. Comments.
You know, if anybody is interested, I can show what the Divi builder looks like. But I don't know if, now that we've talked about blocks, I don't want to add to the confusion.
yeah.
Nobody's going to use it.
Divi is supposed to be an easy one to use, right? Or no, or maybe
Yeah,
not.
well, it's supposed to be. Like I said, I think it was easier when they made it like a wireframe, so you could kind of see what you were building. But I think it just depends what you get used to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to show a little bit, we got a few minutes, you know.
Well, I don't want to bore everybody to death, so.
You're not boring anybody. Tessa, show us. Show it.
Okay, need to share screen again, so we'll do that. Okay, this is my site. And the blog page, which I call articles, this was what the Divi builder used to look like. And there's a bunch of updates I probably need to do here, but I'm afraid to do them because I don't want to screw everything up. But what you see here in the Divi builder is you can see a section, and you can see a row inside the section. And then these are images and another module here. And then there's a second section and a second row, and then the articles. So if I wanted to add something in this, I could insert a new section, a regular one, and then I get to pick what format it wants to be. Just pick that one because I'm not going to save this. And then you have to put modules in it. So you've got an accordion, bar counter, audio, blog, you know, a bunch of these different things that you can decide to put in there. And then you save it and you can preview it. So this is what it used to look like. Now they have changed it. And I have another one up here. I can put it there. All right, we'll just come in again. Okay, this was the one that I created that was totally clean. And if I go to appearance and I see themes, the one I have is installed is Divi. This is the one that Phil was saying is the 2022, the one with the blog and the bird. That's the latest. But the Divi interface it's already been let's go to a page. So here's a sample page. And the block editor wants to start. I'm not sure how to work with that. But when you say edit with the Divi builder, it loads a bunch of stuff up. And this is where, on this one, you can start building from scratch, or you can use, when it decides to settle down, you can use a pre-made layout, which is kind of like a theme. So you can browse the layouts, and then they have a library of them. All of these that are just, they're all done in Divi, but they're different layouts, which looks kind of like a theme. And
It's
if you,
interesting. It's interesting. Yeah.
and so you can pick one of these. They come out, developers are focused on this. They send me a new one like every week at least, all different kinds. And then let's just see. So if you pick one, and you can say view a live demo. And it shows you what it looks like. Or you can say use this layout. And then you have to start putting stuff in there. And the reason I say it's more complicated is because a lot of the controls now are down here. And this plus means you want to add something into it. Load from library. This one is save to library.
You can also switch back to the original wireframe interface.
Well, I know you used to be able to, but I hadn't
You
found
can
it on
switch
this
it.
one yet.
It's in that gray bar in that bottom left
Oh,
corner.
this one?
Way at the footer, the two
This one
box,
over-
yeah, the rectangle over the two
This one.
squares. Right. So you can
Right,
switch
right.
back and forth between the visual builder and the wireframe builder at any time you want.
That is true. You just reminded me how to do that, which is good. So then you have the same concept, the section, the row. You can add rows as you go. You can add modules, all kinds of things that you want to do. So
Yeah, it's-
I don't know, from those people who have used blocks, how does this compare?
I was just thinking, like, you see where the blocks like got the inspiration from, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
it's very it's very similar, you know, a lot of it.
That's true.
So yeah, I mean, if you can use that, you can use, you know, I was, you know, I think because I know a little bit about blocks now that I've been using a little bit, and I feel like I could dive right into this, you know.
Yeah, I think it's probably very much the same. The difference was that Divi had a lot of this done well before blocks came out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of, they didn't have that many blocks when they first launched that Gutenberg. Now it sounds like have a whole lot more, so.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if you know, like, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Same thing with Elementor. They have the blocks and everything, and Divi, it's almost the same as Divi. And I think WordPress is getting a lot of competition from them. So I think WordPress stepped up their game and started making these blocks out of need to because of the other builders.
Yeah, they're probably gonna get left behind, you know?
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah. If you
And-
can't innovate, copy, right? Or imitate
Yeah.
is what they say, yeah.
Yeah.
And now,
Um,
now
also
it's the
speed.
builders that are gonna get left behind.
Yeah, and also speed, because a lot of times the page builders tend to add a lot of extra code in there.
Yeah.
Like if you ever look at the source code, it's underneath, it gets pretty bloated.
Mhm.
So I think that's why WordPress is going that direction. They're trying to speed the web up.
Mhm.
What's interesting is the, you know, the kind of the theme type of things that they had in there. You know, WordPress has those like kind of the patterns like Philip was talking about there. And it'd be kind of interesting if they just had, you know, expanded it to have like, you know, almost themes like that, or home pages where you can just, you know, click on that and add it and then move a couple things around, you know?
Well, people are building block themes. Like if you go to download a new theme, just type in block themes. And there's a few. I mean, he wants, you know, Matt wants like 3,000 of something, and right now there's probably 200, maybe. I don't even know. It's not very many.
Yeah, I'm on the theme, you know, the plugin. I'm on that where it has the theme blocks, and there are quite a bit now. You know, I mean, not now. It's, you know, these are new, but the post author, you know, they got all sorts of stuff, categories and logos and site titles, and yeah, so it is. You should be able to build, you know, at least basic pages with that at the very least. Interesting.
Okay, any questions about it? I will just thought people might like to see what the interface looked like.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So do we have yeah, is anybody got any questions about just their own blogs or anything like that they want to just off topic or anything like that?
We will just mention quickly to Tess, because when you were showing the different landscape people, you showed Sherry and Glenn's, and they're great, by the way. They're friends of ours. So we thought it was really fun. And it does not surprise me at all that they have a fairly basic website.
But it had all the information on it.
Yeah.
The main thing.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I think, yeah, I was going to say something now, I forgot what it was. Oh, I know. Was going to ask those of you who have active blogs, do you have a main page and then you link off to your blog, or does your main page, is that your blog? I'm just curious what the consensus was on doing it one way or the other.
Right now, I could speak for myself that I have a main page that is my blog. And, you know, as you saw, what I'm thinking of doing now is having a more of a main page that has 3 main spots so that people can go to recipes, they can go to brain health, they can go to TBI, and then they can break off of there so that there's an easier way for people to specialize. And that's something I think Pat, his last name I am forgetting. Oh crap. He's somebody who's I'll look him up. Anyways, he's one of these, you know, one who tells you how to make money on the web, but different from most of them where it's like, oh, I did this and you can do it the same way as me, and that's all they've ever done. Pat has started numerous businesses and always is showing people how he's doing it. And he's really experimented a lot with what works best for having blog sites and driving people to the information that you want them to see.
Pat Flynn?
Yeah, Pat Flynn, thank you.
Yes. I had
There
to
we
look
go.
it up. Yep.
Yeah, And he's also a really good guy. So he's a fun one to watch. It gets a little overwhelming after a while because he's got a lot of people helping him. So there's a lot of information coming out. So that's what I've done. And that's part of why I'm looking to change it. But the other thing that I found is, with a blog site, what's really important, I mean, one of the reasons I think that you couldn't find stuff is I don't use the word blog, in my site at all. So if you're Googling that, you're not going to find it. But how people find me is, looking for traumatic brain injury or mild traumatic brain injury and high IQ or other issues they're having. Like one that has gotten a lot of hits is friendships after a brain injury. And, people come in and they'll Google that term. And, so I think that's the important part with the blog is to really use Yoast and use your keywords.
Mhm.
The Pat Flynn is I remember him from years ago. And I was looking at podcasts and trying to find, I was just looking for a blogging podcast, and he's been podcasting, I guess, for years. And anyway, it's a pretty good, I was listening to it just this last week, and he's got a pretty good podcast. I listened to probably half a dozen different episodes of it. So kind of interesting. That's that Smart Passive Income. That's his site there that I put in the chat. So anyway, well, what if we wrapped up about 10 minutes early? Would that okay? It kind of feels like we're over. So anyway, I enjoyed this. It was a good discussion. We've had a couple heavier meetups, in the beginning of the year that were a lot of information and that sort of thing. So it's kind of nice. This is kind of a refreshing one to have. So next month, so two things. First, we're always looking for, Tessa and Mark and I, we can do some of these. We're not great at them, but we can do some of these, and we intend to. We're always looking for people to present to the group. If you got some sort of special skill, if you're a writer or some sort of developer background, graphics, marketing. I mean, blogging, it can be anything in that blogging sphere. It can be just WordPress stuff, but if you're somebody that wants to, I'm going to put my email in the chat here. And anyway, appreciate it if you reach out. I appreciate you if you reach out, and I mean, we're looking for people. So anything that would be of interest to the group. I mean, you guys are in the group and you kind of understand it, and so anyway, we would love to have it. So with that being said, next month we've already got our next program lined up here. It's gonna be Gerald there, the guy with the almost looks like he's standing in front of a bullseye there, but that's the Colorado flag. And anyway, so he's going to be talking about just the block editor, and not necessarily the high tech stuff. I don't know what all he's going to get into, but just how to use it and how he's using it. And he's got several sites that he's working with right now. And anyway, I think that's going to be a good and fun one. So that's what we're talking about next month. So anyway, anything left?
Where are you going to put the recording?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Where? Okay.
Oh, I forgot this was recorded.